First of all, our prayers and best wishes to the people and the first responders and the rescuers engaged in the relief and rescue efforts in Jamaica and the Caribbean. This is a absolutely devastating hurricane. We saw what some of the hurricanes could even do in the United States, like Hurricane Andrew and Hurricane Gene and so forth. But the United States at least has an infrastructure. Jamaica is a much poorer country. So we do pray for the people in Jamaica, and there are a number of Christians who are in Jamaica. Wonderful people, and may God be with them. This is just a very terrible and serious storm. In the meanwhile, to no one's surprise, Hamas has again violated the ceasefire, having killed two Israeli soldiers earlier this month. After the ceasefire, they are shooting again. Mr. Netanyahu has ordered Israeli military, the IDF, to return fire. My own personal view is now that we have the hostages back, we need to go in, Israel needs to go in and just absolutely massacre what is left of Hamas. They have nothing more to lose. If Hamas is going to continue to kill its own people and to use its own people and its own children as human shields, their blood will be on the hands of Hamas, not on the hands of the Israelis. They need to go in and finish it off. They've got the hostages back, and the American government should not interfere. Talking about that, there are some things of which I would laud Mr. Trump for, but other things of which I have extreme trepidation. And I say this not with any sense of glee, I assure you. I wish him nothing but well. First of all, to the credit of the Trump administration, they have taken the passport and they are looking to deport Sami Hamdi, who's a radical Islamic journalist based in Great Britain. He was speaking at a CAIR, the Council of American Islamic Relations, which has had Hamas and Muslim Brotherhood links, in the United States. Not Hamas specifically, but the parent of Hamas, the Muslim Brotherhood. And he was going to make another CAIR speech in Florida. Now, as you know, my view is CAIR needs to be closed down by the federal government in the name of national security and the war on terror. The Justice Department has absolutely concluded the associations between terrorists and those raising money for terror and CAIR officials. There's more than enough grounds to close this organization down. It's a danger to America, it's a danger to national security, and it should not even exist. But I do think it is good that Sami Hamdi is being sent back to Britain where he came from. And the British should put him out of commission, but that is my particular view. On the other hand, there are other things of which I must raise some grave concerns. Jared Kushner, as a private businessman, has done business deals and is in business partnership with the Qataris. Now, the Qataris, as I've said before, are a Muslim Brotherhood government. They're a Muslim Brotherhood government who play both sides. They'll play friendly to America, have American military forces even based there. They will play together with Iran, with whom they share the world's largest single natural gas oil field underneath the Persian Gulf. Qatar has about 14% of the world's natural gas, with a population of 330,000 people, and 14% of the world's natural gas. Money is no problem. They've got fewer than 350,000 citizens, although they have a couple of million very low-wage workers brought in from other mainly Muslim countries, who are paid extremely low wages. Some have described them as serfs or even slaves. But the 330,000 Qataris have a government that is Muslim Brotherhood. Again, Hamas is the military branch of Muslim Brotherhood in Gaza. This is what we're dealing with, and Jared Kushner is partners with them. At the same time this is going on, the Qataris have already spent about $200 billion in buying political and university influence in the United States 200 billion. Money is no object for them, obviously, with so much natural gas and such a low population. They buy influence, buy chairs, buy faculties, control the faculties with their pro-Islamic agenda in such institutions as Georgetown University and others. And they're getting away with it. And the Trump administration, like the previous administrations, lets them get away with it. I would hate to think that Jared Kushner is putting his personal business interests ahead of the national interests, as the Bush dynasty did, as the Bush dynasty, who were partnered with the House of Saud and the Carlyle Group in the time era of September 11th. The Bush family plainly was willing to put the interests of themselves ahead of the national interests of the United States in their dealings with the Saudi Arabians, whose members of the House of Saud funded Al Qaeda, funded the September 11th attacks, and most of the terrorists were Saudi Arabian. That did not matter to Bush or Cheney. They were more than willing to sell America down the river, as they were business partners with the Saudis. Now I'm beginning to see the same thing happen with Jared Kushner, and I am not happy. And I'm particularly unhappy because he's a Jew. Ironically, while this very same thing is going on, based in Qatar is, of course, Al Jazeera, in which the Qatari government has a lot of influence and control. And they are condemning the policies of the Trump administration in Venezuela in their media. It doesn't make a lot of sense unless you say they're putting money before the interests of the country. I'm very troubled about it. Very troubled. Meanwhile, other things are happening that are causing me a great deal of concern concerning Mr. Trump and his policies in the Middle East. I would have to agree with the remarks made by Michelle Bachmann. Now, she is a believer, she is a born-again Christian, but I do not have a high view of her theologically. She's involved with hyper-charismatic extremists and ultra-Pentecostals. I myself am not a cessationist. I believe in the gifts of the Spirit, as do all at Moriel. However, she is into the extreme element of it, or at least she consorts with them. I do not have a high view of her theologically. She's involved with Pat Robinson's Regents University. I take a very low view of her theologically, but I take a high view of her politically, a very high view of her politically. And her complaints about some of the policies of the Trump administration concerning Qatar and Israel are very well placed. One of which is Mr. Vance was in Israel and he publicly condemned the Israeli Knesset, who had a preliminary vote concerning West Bank annexation. West Bank annexation. Now, that is the land of biblical Israel that God gave to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It is biblical Israel. We're talking about Bethlehem. We're talking about Jericho. We're talking about Shechem. We're talking about Elon Moreh. We're talking about major biblical sites. We're talking about where Elijah was taken up to heaven, where the ministry of Elisha took place. We are talking about where Joshua first entered the land. We're talking about biblical Israel. It is not for the United States to intervene in the internal affairs of Israel concerning the properties that it is its traditional homeland and that it was forced to capture in self-defense in 1967. I do not agree with the expulsion of native Arabs. They should have their own villages, control of their own communities, providing they accept to live in peace with Israel. They were Jordanian citizens. They should be entitled to have their Jordanian citizenship back, or they can become citizens of Gaza if they wish, and they can continue to live in the West Bank, providing they do so peaceably. However, Mr. Trump is moving for this idea of, again, a so-called two-state solution. It appears to be this. He is considering pressuring Israel to release somebody who has been called the Nelson Mandela of the Palestinians, Marwan Bagrati. Now, the Israelis have him in prison for 5 counts of murder and 1 of attempted murder. He is the leader, was the leader of the Tanzim, the armored faction of Fatah, Arafat's gunmen. But he was also the founder of the Al Aqsa Brigade, who murdered countless people, Jew and Arab and Christian. The Al Aqsa Terrorist Brigade, he's the founder. Now, he is a uniting figure because he can unite the Hamas controlled people of the Gaza Strip with the Fatah controlled people of the West Bank. He's an alternative to Hamas, and he's an alternative to the present leadership of the Palestinian Authority that nobody wants, nobody trusts, and nobody respects, that is aging and is corrupt. Yet there he is. The Israelis have him in prison. I personally think he should have been executed as the founder of, I think it's unfortunate he was ever captured and imprisoned. I wish he had been taken out in a military strike. But he is the founder of the Al Aqsa Brigade, at least one of the primary founders. There is no way that man should ever be allowed out of prison. Yet the Trump administration may be on the verge of pressuring the Israelis to do it in order to negotiate with him to create a Palestinian Muslim state in biblical Israel. At the same time, Mr. Trump has announced that the United States would stop its support for Israel if it did annex the West Bank. This is very troubling. Now, Mr. Netanyahu was left in a difficult position. We know what his own sentiments likely are, but he was left to decry the vote in the Knesset at the same time in order to placate Mr. Trump, who was seen as a heroic figure for getting the hostages released. And I give him that, and I applaud that. However, to let someone like Marwan Bagrati, or to pressure the Israelis to release somebody like him. When they released Mandela, look what Mandela did when he brought the ANC to power. The ANC took South Africa from something bad to something worse. And there's no doubt if Marwan Bagrati is released, the same thing is going to happen again. This is not something that can be defended. A lot of Christians pray for and have voted for Mr. Trump, and I pray for him daily. I voted for him twice. I did not vote for him or for Harris the last time. I voted independently. But many of my friends and other people in Moriel voted for him, and I do not criticize them. I pray for Mr. Trump every day. But what he's doing concerning Bagrati and what he's doing concerning interfering with Israel's custody of the West Bank territories, biblical Israel, it's not something he should be taking a role in. Bagrati claims to want a two-state solution that will include all of the West Bank, all of Gaza, and all of Jerusalem. That is East Jerusalem. Read Zechariah 12. All who lift that stone of Jerusalem will hurt themselves grievously. If the American government of any administration, Democrat, Republican, doesn't matter who it is, if they lift that stone, they will be hurt grievously. We have the promise of Jesus Christ speaking in the first person in the Old Testament when he was the eternal Son of God through the prophet Zechariah. Mr. Trump will bring a disaster if he does that. Mr. Vance, who unfortunately converted to Roman Catholicism, will bring a disaster. I am very disappointed and very, very concerned. Let us move on. The Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, a former Democrat, has essentially said Barack Obama attempted to overthrow the constitutional republic of the United States in 2016 with a seditious conspiracy. Obama and his henchmen, Susan Rice, we know Brennan, we know Clapper, Hillary Clinton, Comey, criminally conspired while pretending to be conducting a peaceful transition of power to legally undermine a legitimately elected president. They did this in 2016. I don't think Obama will be brought to justice. The best thing that can happen to Obama is if we can find out, if it can be found out, that he took student grants at Harvard or Columbia as a foreign student when he returned from Indonesia in his youth, in which case he can be denationalized and prosecuted or at least deported. That might be the best avenue to get him. I don't think you're going to succeed to put a former president in prison, even though it is certainly where Obama belongs, as well as Mr. Biden. Having said that, his henchmen should be brought to justice. I applaud Tulsi Gabbard, again, a former Democrat, for pointing this out. Meanwhile, in Loyola University, a Jesuit Roman Catholic school that has multiple campuses, one in New Orleans, has banned Turning Point USA, Charlie Kirk's organization, from the campus. This Roman Catholic institution has banned it because of its left-wing inclinations. The idea that Roman Catholicism is in any way supportive of traditional family values, moral values, is absurd. From their pedophile protecting popes to their child molesting clergy on a wide scale and the bishops who protect them, there's no way anyone can argue for any moral legitimacy for Roman Catholicism or for American Roman Catholicism. What is happening at Loyola University is just another example, as what happens in Georgetown University. Both of these are Jesuit institutions. Both of these are godless Jesuit institutions. Meanwhile, in New York, a city voting for its own death, there has been a call by certain members of Congress for Zohran Mamdani to be denationalized and deported to Uganda because of his public praise for Hamas supporters, because of his refusal to disavow violent anti-American rhetoric. Meanwhile, the governor of New York, Kathy Hochul, has endorsed this guy. This is a communist, Muslim, anti-Semite, Jew-hating supporter, virtually, of radical Islam. And he's on the verge of becoming mayor of New York City. The only alternative is Andrew Cuomo, who said, if you are pro-life, there's no place for you in the state of New York, who took elderly people, senior citizens, and crowded them into retirement homes during COVID, resulting in the death of God knows how many thousands. He was found responsible and had to resign as governor because of his inappropriate aggression that was sexually connotated towards women. And that's who's running against this communist Muslim. It shows you how ridiculous and stupid New York City is. I'm not saying all the people in it are there, but the majority of New Yorkers are self-destructive morons. They deserve no better. Alvin Bragg, its DA, who took an elderly immigrant, a legal immigrant from the Dominican Republic who was in the country with a green card legally, working in a bodega, a grocery shop. Somebody tried to rob it at gunpoint. This brave elderly man attacked and killed the assailant, the robber, who came at him with a gun trying to rob the store, and Bragg had the old man charged with murder. The charges were dropped under political pressure, and the old man went back to the Dominican Republic. He doesn't want to be in the United States if this is what it's like. Well, it was Bragg who gave the green light, of course, to Letitia James to pursue this bogus prosecution of Donald Trump. Donald Trump's lawyers have rightly petitioned the court now to have these charges dismissed. The appeals court already threw out the outrageous sentence as unconstitutional. Yet this judge has not been brought to account. We need judicial reform. In California, there has been an avalanche of illegal immigrants being given truck driver's licenses by the state of California, and a number of them have been involved in fatal accidents, killing people, maiming children. This means nothing, of course, to Mr. Newsom or to the California State Assembly, but that is what is happening. We have two Americas. In the meanwhile, there's news in the media. Things are beginning to change from what they were. People are having to ameliorate situations that they helped create and modify their positions. Bill Gates has said there is no doomsday scenario now from global warming. This is a big setback for the radical green agendas and the climate change scaremongers. Bill Gates has said there's no doomsday scenario. They're not going to like that. He was one of their biggest voices and, of course, source of funding and support. CBS is now purchased. It was taken by Paramount, but that was taken over by another company, and CBS Media News has been put in the hands of Barry Weiss, a woman. She is a right-center moderate who is going to demolish the biased news, editorialized news reporting that has characterized CBS. CBS has fallen on back, well on back of Fox, obviously, but it has fallen on back of NBC and ABC News as traditional rivals. They want to revive it, and they need to get rid of those who are responsible for its decline. CBS was taken, it was the network of Walter Cronkite and Robert Trout and people like that, going back to Edward R. Murrow, and it just became a propaganda machine for the Democrats. However, CNN is also up for sale, and there's a big question as to what will happen in its future. The mainstream media is finding itself in trouble. In London, England, voices in the British Parliament have accused the mayor, Khan, a Muslim who is an enemy of Israel, who is a friend of radical Islam, although he would deny it, his actions say otherwise, and so do some of his statements. He stands accused of protecting grooming gangs. Most of these grooming gangs are Muslims, where they take underage girls and turn them into prostitutes with Islamic pimps. He has been accused of covering it up in the British Parliament, and the evidence seems to lend credence to the accusation. Let us pray to God that that evil man is removed. He needs to be removed. Meanwhile, Mr. Trump is in the Far East. He's been nominated for the Nobel, or going to be nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize by the Prime Minister of Japan, Japan's first female Prime Minister. His main reason for going to Asia before he meets with Ping in China, who's in trouble himself, is meeting with Southeast Asian countries and the Japanese concerning alternative sources to rare earth minerals. China does not have a monopoly on rare earth metals or minerals. They do not have on palladium or any of these things. What they do have is a monopoly on the mining and processing of them. They are needed for high technology, for refrigerators, for automobiles, computer, various appliances, and for national defense. Because China was willing to mine these rare earth metals without any regard for the environment, because rare earth mining is toxic, it's environmentally disastrous, and it's very expensive to mine it safely and in an environmentally friendly way. China didn't care. They just wanted the money and the control of the rare earth minerals market. Secondly, China was willing to do it for low wages. So because of low wages and because of their disregard for their environment, China controls that market. They have threatened, of course, to embargo them to the United States. The United States has responded, Mr. Trump, by saying he will put a 100% tariff on China beginning the 1st of November. Now they're talking. China has to talk. Mr. Trump has to talk. But they're talking from a position of strength. Mr. Trump wants to consolidate a consortium of nations. It will involve places like Australia, Canada, as well as the United States. There are a lot of rare earth metals in California, and also Southeast Asian economies. He wants to go in to negotiate with China, saying, you have it now, but you're not going to be able to keep it. We will compete with you. These other countries around you don't like you. And we will absolutely be able to develop this industry of our own. The problem is how long it will take to do that in an environmentally safe manner. That is the question. And you're not going to do it for the low wage scales that are in China, in the United States, or in Australia, or in Canada. It'll have to be done in other Asian countries or in Japan. But that is what underlies his trip there. Concerning Venezuela, it is being alleged by the left, by the Democrats, particularly Cory Booker from New Jersey. He seems to be pro-drug addiction and pro-drug crime and pro-drug death, pro-drug overdose. Booker seems to be pro that. He's objecting to Mr. Trump's use of the military to protect the country from the influx of illegal drugs coming out of Venezuela. The Democrats are screaming about using the military for police purposes when the police can't control the crime. That's what they're screaming about. Well, we see this in Memphis, the highest murder rate of any city in the United States, and the left-wing politicians are complaining. They want dead blacks, basically. They want dead blacks. These black liberal politicians want more dead blacks, more than they want Mr. Trump to do something about it. The state government leans towards Mr. Trump. The federal government wants to stop this killing of black people. Black lives matter to Mr. Trump. Black lives don't matter to Black Lives Matter and the left. That's what's happening in Memphis. But Mr. Booker, who's also black, he goes the same way. He's complaining that Congress must authorize this use of the military for police purposes. Hundreds of times, governors without acts of Congress have mobilized militias, National Guards, in times of riots, disasters, without any congressional approval. George Washington, in the Whiskey Rebellion, used federal troops as a police agency right at the beginning of the country. Again, Mr. Booker hates Mr. Trump more than he cares about the people who are being the victims of the drug trade, the illegal drug trade, many of them being black. This shows the truth about the left. Winsome Earl Sears, a black conservative, highly intelligent, and a seemingly godly woman running for governor of Virginia, is being victimized repeatedly being victimized and attacked racially. Go back to Haiti. These are liberals telling her this. Well, actually, she was born in Jamaica. Also, you see people holding up signs. If transsexuals can't share a locker room with your little girl or a shower with your little girl, black people shouldn't be able to drink at water fountains. You see what they're saying? If you don't let your transsexuals have access to a little girl's locker room or shower facility, that's the same as saying black people can't drink in a water fountain, going back to Golden Parks in the civil rights movement. Unbelievable. The left don't care about blacks. They just use them as their political stooges. These are the things that are happening. Meanwhile, the shutdown continues. Once again, Mr. Schumer, trying to pander to the left wing of his party for fear that Alejandro Ortega Cortez will run against him in a primary, is depriving Americans of SNAP, that is what was once called food stamps, and now air traffic controllers are not going to be paid. You've got major delays at LAX, and it's going to begin in other airports within the next 72 hours if something doesn't happen. But Mr. Schumer and the Democrats just don't care. Unless you're willing to take taxpayer money and add to the national deficit that has to be repaid with interest in order to fund transgender awareness in a third world country and pay free medical costs for people with no right to be in the country, we're going to close down the government. That is Schumer. That is what they are doing. Meanwhile, fortunately, Javier Milei has won by a landslide in Argentina. May he continue to bring revitalization to that country's troubled economy. He is a supporter of Israel. He is a supporter of the United States. May God bless him indeed. Mr. Trump, of course, has had his government trying to intercept these drugs coming from Venezuela. It may be his plan to bring about regime change, but he's being accused of using Venezuela's involvement in the illegal drug trafficking as an excuse to invoke military action to bring about the change. Part of the problem with that is just today, 4 boats transporting illegal narcotics to the United States in the Eastern Pacific were attacked by the American military, killing 14 drug traffickers off the coast of Mexico coming into the United States. It is not something that's only being pursued in the Caribbean or in Venezuela. It is a policy to stop the fentanyl deaths and the deaths of crystal meth and other narcotics. One of the things that will be on the agenda is the production of cheap fentanyl in China in Mr. Trump's negotiations with Ping. Additionally, the House Oversight Committee has made references to the DOJ of members of the Biden administration and Mr. Biden's personal physician, Kevin O'Connor, for their refusal to cooperate with congressional investigations into the cover-up of Mr. Biden's cognitive capacity while serving as president. The auto pen signatures have been brought into question for their legality, and Republican members of the committee are saying that they are void. Hopefully, this will go through. The DOJ will be able to take the appropriate action, and many of those pardons given by Biden will be overturned. He, of course, lied through his teeth that he would not pardon his son and then did it after saying repeatedly he wouldn't, being the liar he is. That man, how do you even describe somebody as mentally incompetent, mentally incapable, and personally corrupt, being in the White House and having his finger on the proverbial button? Yet Harris and Garland and Austin and the people in his and Jake Sullivan knew it. They knew it and they did not care. It would be something to celebrate if these auto pen pardons were considered to be legally void and prosecutions can take place. These are the things that need to happen. Finally, King Hussein of Jordan. Unbelievable. I'm sorry, King Hussein, King Abdullah II of Jordan. Unbelievable. He says that peacekeeping forces in Gaza, including Arab peacekeeping forces, can only be peacekeepers. They cannot be peace enforcers. What does that mean? How can you keep the peace if you don't enforce it? It's not even a logical statement. He's behaving like a double talking hypocrite. He's a Hashemite Bedouin king of a Palestinian state. His father even admitted it. King Hussein, his father, even admitted Jordan is a Palestinian state. That is what motivates him. Forget about a two-state solution. There is and there always has been a Palestinian state, and it is Jordan. The fact that it has a Bedouin king is not Israel's responsibility. He doesn't even make sense in what he's saying. It seems like it's back to business as usual in Gaza. Those are my hot takes. Once again, I urge prayer for Mr. Trump and that he would back away from what he's doing with Qatar and the pressure he's threatening to put on Israel to release this dangerous, dangerous figure who sees himself in the character of Mandela. I speak of Marwan Bagrati. My name is James Jacob Prash from More Real Ministries. God bless all of you. Back to our normal catching up crew. I am traveling. I'm in Scotland at the moment on my way to Ireland and Northern Ireland. I could not be on the panel this week. However, you heard what I wanted to say if I had been there. Thank you so very, very much. God bless.